Good morning, Gary Cross, Heirloom Popcorn Seed Company. Been a little while since I've done one of these. I'm back on. Made a trip to Illinois. Locked the front door, oh boy. Remember that song from Creedence Clearwater Revival? And had a very nice time visiting elderly parents and family and eating a little popcorn while I was there. Again, eat popcorn. It's a healthy snack. If you don't believe me, you can buy my book. uh, Getting Back to Good Health, Popcorn, Getting Back to Good Health, One Kernel at a Time. I think it is a excellent book and shows you that popcorn is high in fiber, iron, vitamins, minerals, uh, antioxidants, maybe the highest of any plant, of any product in the world. I think you really need to look at popcorn as a daily snack or a weekly snack. In anything, you eat it with moderations. It has all different types of high quality nutrients, and seek that as your snack for yourself and for your kids. And I'm diabetic, and I have to watch my sugars, and of course, starch creates sugars, and popcorn does have starch. But then again, fiber is one of the highest, if not the highest, of any food you can eat. So if you eat it in moderation, you should be okay. I wrote a new book. I may have talked a little bit about it in my last uh, podcast. The name of the book is The Farmer and the Seedsman. It talks about what I worked with and what I did pre biotechnology. That shows you how old I am. I'm pre biotechnology as far as, and pre cell phone, and pre almost computer, especially home computer. So I've been around for a while and seen all these marvelous moves in technology. I was talking to somebody the other day. The way I had to sell seed sometimes was get to a payphone to see if the farmer was around. Well, you can only find a payphone anymore. We didn't have cell phones back then. I remember when we got a bag phone, that really helped us tremendously, but it was an expensive process. Um, and of course, I worked in a world before biotechnology. And I even got to see the beginnings of the biotechnology. The Dr. George Kapusta, a Southern Illinois University professor where I went to school, was working on I guess, the EPA issues and looking at the different combinations of chemical being sprayed on it, Roundup, glyphosate, up at the Belleville farm many years ago. And that was quite a treat to be able to see that and see that that technology was coming, which is now commonplace in technology in soybeans and in corn. So, and it helped the farmer gain control of a lot of weeds, but we've experienced some resistance issues and things have gotten expensive. The seed has gotten expensive. Here's an example in my book I give. Seed back then, you get a bag of seed corn for less than $100. Anywhere from 50 to 75, maybe. You could get the cheap stuff at $30 a bag, small seeded or some sort of a blend. We used to blend corns, if you believe that, because farmers thought the plants would be maturing all the time. So it's blended and maybe have a better yield. In some capacities, that would be the case, but the genetics have gotten a lot better, and a lot of that is not done as much. The only blending they may do may be for the non-resistant biotech corn with the resistant biotech corn to have some help with that insect resistance that they've been having trouble with, because it takes years and years to make events or new technologies for agricultural products. Also, in The Farmer and the Seedsman, I tell stories of farmers and some of their antics and seed plots that we did together, and riding seed planters and getting dirty from head to toe. And it was quite an experience to be involved in that. How we worked with the public sector varieties. that universities release. Some still do that periodically, but not like they used to. Farmers depended on public soybean varieties and wheat varieties for their whole existence for many years. Then we started getting into the privatized non biotech varieties, which improved in yield, that were beating the public sector products. And that's how the whole private sector business was started from that capacity. You know, Williams and Williams 82, which is huge, were huge sellers, had huge amount of acres. I don't know if you'll ever see a soybean ever have what an Essex or a Williams had. The Essex in the southern part of the United States, and the Williams in the northern part of the United States, northern corn belt, and the other one southern corn belt or soybean belt, whatever you want to call it. And it made a huge difference, but you know, we needed cyst resistant soybean cyst nematode, which is a disease and a parasite that affect yield dramatically. And we were needing to look at different varieties and some better varieties. We had a variety that I thought was very underrated, but was a tremendous variety. Came out of SIU Carbondale called Pharaoh, and it was a very, very good disease variety. Dr. Mike Schmidt developed the variety. And I think it should have been one of the biggest selling varieties, especially for mid-4 in the history. It was that good. It yielded that good. It had that good a disease resistance. When it came to sudden death, it held its own, and it should have got a lot more promise. It did, but that variety was in the middle of the transition from the public and private issues, and didn't get as much play as it should have, because it was a tremendous variety out there in the soybean public world, or just the soybean world in general. Corn varieties, you know, there was really one group you could buy corn from, and they were called corn states, and they didn't have any biotech back then. And you usually worked with, if you didn't raise your own seed corn, you worked with a company out there that would produce the corn for you and bag it for you and ship it to you. And you made a little money. You didn't make as much as what they would as producing the corn and selling it, but you made pretty good money on selling a bag of seed corn, because it wasn't that expensive back then. And I talk about the ride-arounds I did with farmers, looking at fields, discussing agronomic issues. It seems like we were always looking to improve, looking to do better, looking. I'm not saying they're not doing that today, but I don't think we depended on technology as much to do better. We looked at farming practice to do better. We looked at how we placed our varieties and soil types in a direct fashion. And I think we did a lot of that better back then than we do today. I'm not saying we should never have had biotech, don't get me wrong. It made the farmer a lot more, or what I should say, less dependent on chemicals, because the technology didn't require a lot of chemicals. If you were doing pre-biotechnology, you were looking at using a lot of different chemicals, making more trips in the field, being exposed to more things. So, you know, whatever all these people say about, you know, the resistant type products that came out, Roundup and many others, they did make it better and safer farming for the farm people. You know, there's been lawsuits and all these other things on biotech affecting people's health and on and on. But for, you know, it wasn't as bad as what some of the other chemicals were. Lasso and some of the pesticides we were using were banned because they were cancer causing, toxaphene being one of them. Great killer of grasshoppers and cutworms and things of that, and your armyworms. But you know, these things were banned, and you know, we've developed better products overall. But I just think the farmer concentrated more on practice. I think that the farmer depended on, you know, trying to beat weather issues, trying to do better planting dates, trying to develop his farm around high quality varieties. And that gave the seed companies that did biotech quite an advance in uh, seed placement and seed issues. One thing I had studied, and I think Ron Heiniger studied in North Carolina, and I think a few other people in other states have studied, is this issue with emergence. And that was a very important thing when, seed treatments, we did seed treatment plots, we did all types of things, especially with soybeans and wheat. Not as much corn. Corn's always treated for soil-borne insects and always has been to most extent in my work time. And those issues that had treatments were much, much better on emergence, much, much better on getting out of the ground. 90% of yield is emergence, not high quality. High quality varieties is one aspect of that. Tillage is another aspect of that, but 90% of the emergence issue, maybe even higher than that of yield, is at emergence. And I can tell you, I lined up 4 plants, flagged which one come up first, which one come up second, and this is in fields, in various fields with different soil types and different corn varieties. And I guarantee in almost every case, if the variety comes up first versus if the corn plant comes up first versus the one that comes up fourth, is like night and day. The first one will yield about 60 bushel more, or maybe even higher than that, than the fourth day. The fourth day is almost a weed. So what seed companies have not been concentrating on, have not been doing, is looking at how we can get every plant in that field up in one day or the same time in emergence. Um, that would be a daunting task. But if you could, you double, triple, quadruple yield on farmers' fields. Um, you're talking about something that takes, side by side fertilizer. I'm a firm believer in fertilizer before planting or right close to the seed, as long as it doesn't burn it, because some of the fertilizers are hot. And we did a lot of this stuff pre-biotech. We looked at how we can get an edge on yield and how we can get edges on other issues by using starter type fertilizer. I'm a big believer in starter fertilizer, just like I am in seed treatments and many other things. So I think we need to look at some of those practices we've been doing. I know a lot of people that are coming out of college today are looking at cover and cover crops, which is fine. Maybe generate some organic matter and generating issues of cover for soil erosion, things of that nature. But I think a lot of those that are doing that cover crop research need to go back and look at some of the work Dixon Springs did 50, 60 years ago. This is nothing new. This is not something that has popped out as a new issue. We've been doing that through no-till farming, through zero-till farming, through many other types of issues. Cover crops have been used since the 40s, 30s. You had clover and you had alfalfa, or especially the clover you plow under for that issue. Today we look at them as saving carbon or whatever in that capacity. But to me, is it something that needs to take a second look? Maybe. But I think emergence is something that really needs to take a hard look. And I think a lot of these young people coming out of college need to be looking at that from an agronomic perspective of how do we do that? Is there equipment we could design to do that? Is it laser technology or nanotechnology that can improve this? Is it, a certain type of fertilizer will sprout that corn quicker and get it up? Looking at the best quality seed we can get, 99.9% germ, not a 95% or a 90% germ. And those studies we did on emergence on corn, we also did on soybeans in North Carolina. And I did my own in North Carolina, not with Ron Heiniger. And the ones we did in soybeans show the same thing. So I think there's a lot of room there to move forward and do a lot of research in that, how we can improve on that. Daylight length, many other issues that people are working on. The emergent issue seems to be at the side of on the sidelines, and it shouldn't be. It needs to be looked at pretty hard and pretty in depth. But look for my book on Amazon Kindle, The Farmer and the Seedsman. Also, you can get it by writing me or emailing me at heirloompopcornseed@gmail.com, or going to my website, heirloompopcornseed.com. And I'll send you a copy. I think it's $5, something like that, or $7. Um, you can do a Kindle read pretty quick with it. And I just go into a basic general issue. I don't go into real detail with it. But we'll continue some of these sessions that we're talking about in agriculture, and look at see what's some of the possibilities that we will have in the future by looking at the past and applying that to the future. This is Gary Cross at Heirloom Popcorn Seed. Happy popping. See you next time.